All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Finalized, and in this video, we are going to clarify some rumors that are out there about Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford fight being signed. Would be great news if it was true, but let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Finalized. In this video, we are going to be in the 147-pound division again, getting a lot of emails, DMs about a report that the fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford is signed, and they are ready to announce it, or rather not, let me be clarified, that they've agreed and that they are going to be moving forward to announcing the fight. Now, before I address that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber and supporter, thank you so much for coming to the channel, watching the videos, watching the live streams, helping the channel grow. Thank you very much. If you are new to the channel, though, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right, so let's get to it. Biggest fight in boxing, Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford. Everybody is looking out for it, wanting to see if that fight is going to get signed. We have now been in wait and see mode for a couple months now, ever since Errol Spence Jr. Demolished Yordenis Ugas and was in the middle of the ring and said, you know what I want next? I want Errol Spence Jr. Well, just last week, there was a tweet that came out from former ESPN reporter, he's been pretty much been with everybody. Now is a co-host of a show, of a boxing show with the guy with Mario Lopez. And that is Steve Kim, tweeted that Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford have finally agreed. Only problem is that, and think people are missing this, when he made the tweet, he took a couple spaces and he put ... that it's Wednesday. So the tweet said, Errol's breaking news, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford have finally agreed ... that it's Wednesday. Pretty much Steve Kim was trolling the fact that people keep saying, specifically, I assume Mike Coppinger, that the fight, when Mike Coppinger, reported that the fight was done. Now, after Mike Coppinger reported that the fight was done, but the contracts weren't signed, you have Floyd Mayweather Jr., who comes out and says, that is not true. There's no fight date. Agreed upon. There's no contract signed. You will know for sure when it happens, when I tell you, or when Fight Hike tells you. So is the fight made and agreed to or not? They're not based on that particular tweet, because that particular tweet from Steve Kim was pretty much him just trolling people in his on his Twitter. At least that's the way that I read it, because I remember seeing it. I was like, whoa, okay, Steve Kim is saying that this is signed. And then I looked a couple spaces and it ended it with ... that it's Wednesday. So they have both agreed that it is Wednesday. Clearly not them saying that they've agreed to the fight. However, is the fight going to get made? I am still very, very optimistic that it is. You did actually have Terence Crawford, or at least a quote associated with Terence Crawford floating around, where Terence Crawford said that they're getting closer. Obviously, the hold up to this fight is whether or not, I won't say obviously, it makes most sense from looking at everything out there that that what is holding up the fight, or the signing of the fight, is most likely the guarantee that Terence Crawford is going to get for the fight from Showtime. Stephen Espinoza, who was the president of Showtime, said that was the problem with the fight, that they were in negotiations. And he said this at least a month ago, that they were in negotiations and everything seemed like it could work out. The only exception, and this is a big exception, right, was that they are not going to pay fighters like it is Floyd Mayweather, like it's Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao, because they do not believe that the fight is that big. Other word that had come out of Texas about what that issue was that Terence Crawford was looking for a $20 million guarantee and 550 of the pay-per-view. I do believe that was his starting point. And at the time, people were saying Terence Crawford is not moving off of that. Now, a little bit later, you had some word come out that, okay, they had moved on the percentages from 55 to 45, right? Like from a 50-50 split of the pay-per-view to a 55-45 split of the pay-per-view. I don't know for sure if that applies to the gate or whatever, but you had some other issues that were out there, like what a standard issue, by the way, of a rematch clause. Standard, well, not necessarily standard about the venue. Terence Crawford's talked about where he would want to fight, and it needs to be a neutral venue. I'm not sure how neutral any particular venue is going to be, but I can understand him saying that he doesn't want to fight in Dallas, which is the hometown of Errol Spence. But as far as this stuff with Steve Kim and what Steve Kim said, my impression of his tweet, right, is that that was not a serious release of information. That was more just him having fun, because the dude, quite honestly, is not with ESPN anymore. And he is. Now, I will tell you something, though, that Steve Kim is a journalist. Like, I personally separate myself from being, or do not at least want to be considered a journalist, do not want to be considered part of the media. I'm a boxing fan, and we have a boxing forum. So we will get together and talk about whatever issues out there, whatever people are saying in the street, whatever people are saying, whatever media, whether it is Fight Hype or Fight Hub or Boxing Scene, whatever those guys are saying is going on, we'll talk about that as well. If somebody gives me some information, I'll share you the information that they give you. But I don't really consider myself to be a journalist, right? I just have a boxing forum and we chop it up about boxing. Now, Steve Kim, on the other hand, Steve Kim is somebody that is by profession, a journalist, right? Like similar to guys like Mike Coppinger, similar to guys like Jake Donovan, those guys that work for those newspapers, and when they are going to be serious about something, they will say that they have a source. They're not going to joke around about it, right? But Steve Kim has been more of the type to kind of play around and goof around on occasion in some areas that I personally wish that he wouldn't, right? And I think that has a big reason to do with why he's probably not at ESPN anymore. It's because he lets that, he kind of lets himself get a little bit too free, right? Especially with subjects with subjects that really ain't his business. But regardless, I don't think he was serious about that. Didn't sound serious at all. And we're probably just going to have to sit around and wait around for what Floyd Mayweather Jr. said, which was for those guys to actually make that announcement. But anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.